The stadium fell silent before anyone even realized why. It wasn't the crowd controlling the moment. It was the sound. A sound no one expected, a sound that didn't belong on Earth. It was the sound of Shohei Ohtani hitting a baseball so hard. It collided not with the outfield seats, not with the upper deck, but with the actual dome ceiling above the Tokyo Dome. For a split second, nobody moved. Even the camera operator froze, lost between disbelief and awe. And standing near the batting cage, arms crossed, was manager Kikubo, his expression slowly melting into pure shock. This wasn't normal. This wasn't human. This was a man casually rewriting physics. People in the first rows looked upward, following the tiny white speck that kept rising and rising, until it struck the roof with a thundering echo. That made even veteran reporters gasp. Ohtani didn't celebrate. He didn't raise his bat. He didn't smirk. He simply stepped out of the box, as if he'd merely tapped a routine single during warm-ups. But everyone else, their world had just tilted. Players from both sides leaned forward, gripping the cage, their mouths slightly open, because they knew exactly what that sound meant. That wasn't a hard hit. That was a warning from the universe. That Shohei Ohtani was warming up. The training staff exchanged looks. That said everything they were too afraid to say aloud. If he was doing this in practice, what would he unleash once the game actually started? Manager Kikubo finally exhaled, but even he couldn't hide the tremble in his laugh. He had seen home runs. He had seen power. But this was something that forced a manager to rethink every tactical plan he'd built. The dome ceiling was supposed to be unreachable, a symbolic reminder that no human could ever hit a baseball that high. Yet here they were, watching the impossible. Reporters clutched their microphones, ready to broadcast a moment they knew would live online for years, rewatched millions of times by fans around the world. But beyond the jaw-dropping spectacle, there was something deeper, a shift in the air, a sense of destiny swirling around Ohtani, like a storm about to break open. Every swing he took after that seemed to tremble with unspoken potential. The bat whipped through the zone, like a blade slicing through wind, each crack echoing with the promise that something even more outrageous could happen at any second. Kikubo tried to regain composure, but his eyes kept darting toward the ceiling, as if checking to see whether Ohtani's next swing might actually break through it. And the fans, they weren't just watching, they were witnessing history, the kind of moment kids would tell their grandkids about one day. A few players stepped back from the cage, shaking their heads with this unbelievable mixture of fear, admiration, and realization. They weren't competing against a player. They were witnessing the evolution of the sport. As Ohtani reset his stance for another pitch, you could feel a pulse run through the stadium, a heartbeat shared by thousands. The pitcher threw. Ohtani's bat cut through the air, and although this one didn't hit the ceiling, it rocketed so far, so violently, that the outfielders turned their backs before the ball even reached its peak. It was terrifying consistency. It was unreal strength. It was the signature of a player who refused to stop growing, who refused to stop surprising the world. Kikubo covered his mouth for a moment, failing, to hide a smile. That wasn't just admiration, but genuine awe. How do you manage someone like that? One reporter whispered. You don't, another answered softly. You just let him be Ohtani. Because this wasn't something you teach. This wasn't something you control. This was something you witness. Each swing after felt like a message to the baseball world. Don't measure me by your limits. Measure me by mine. The dome ceiling still carried the faint mark of the collision. A scar almost sacred, proof that one man had touched a place the game never intended a baseball to reach. And for a moment, everyone understood why fans across the world speak about Ohtani with a kind of reverence, a tone reserved for legends still breathing. But the most astonishing part was not the power itself. It was the calm in his eyes, the quiet, almost humble focus of a man who still believed he hadn't reached his peak. That humility made the moment louder. It made the ceiling hit feel like the opening chapter to a story still being written, one that no one could predict, but everyone wanted to follow. Time passed, but no one forgot the sound. A sound so violent, so unnatural, it felt like the dome itself had flinched. And as practice ended, Kikubo finally walked toward Ohtani, trying to form words, but only managing a stunned laugh. Ohtani nodded politely, as if nothing extraordinary had happened, as if he hadn't just left a mark on one of the most iconic stadiums in the world. But the fans knew, the players knew, the cameras knew, something extraordinary had happened, something only he could do, something that turned a simple batting practice into global headlines. And long after the noise faded, long after the stadium emptied, one truth echoed louder than any roof-shaking hit. Shohei Ohtani isn't chasing records. He's building a universe where the impossible is just the beginning. And standing under the same roof he once touched with a baseball, you can't help but feel it. That the ceiling was never the limit. It was merely the first thing he decided to break.